What if Tank Davis, who can punch, who is a hell of a fighter, who is a top 10 pound for pound fighter, what if he lands a punch on this bigger guy's chin, right? Who's not a professional fighter? What happens?
But if they do it for real, Tank is highly capable of taking Jake Paul out. So exhibitions that I like to see are ones that either I can look at and say, wow, well, if he would have did that back when he was 10 years younger or 8 years or 12 years ago, he would have beat him. You know what I mean? Because you know boxing.
Which if he hits you because he's so accurate, he's gonna drop you or could put you to sleep. But like not necessarily power punch. Like Edwin De Los Santos is a hard hitter. He would even have a hard time with rollies. I'm not even kidding.
Boxing legends are convinced Gervonta "Tank" Davis will obliterate Jake Paul within 3 rounds. Gareth A. Davis points out how Tank stayed ice-cold and silent during the press conference, refusing to react to Jake's height jokes and constant trash talk. To some, Tank looked too calm, even hesitant, like he was being forced into this fight. But don't be fooled. Gareth says the moment the bell rings, Tank will unleash vicious combinations, flip the switch, and shut Jake Paul up in brutal fashion.
He reminds me of a northern football fan being dragged to a shopping centre on Saturday afternoon rather than being allowed to go to a favourite Liverpool seat. Relate to that, won't you?
Yeah.
And it was almost like he'd been shackled and dragged there against his will. Even when they faced off, it was as if Jake Paul had a bad smell about him or something. He didn't want to get near Jake Paul. He didn't want to. I'm just going to plug this in as well. Not plugged in. It's almost as if he didn't want to indulge anyone at all. Like he'd signed up against his will, and then so like he'd been signed up against his will. The agents and his manager and his handler had dragged him there without briefing him on what was going on and where it would be and what time it would take place. And there was this oath in his mind standing there in front of him, this big oath. He kept posturing, and it just didn't do anything to him. I wondered at one point whether he was going to burst out with a combination of punches or something and just drop Jake Paul, who was being, measuring him up and going down to his height, and it was all very peculiar in my view. Like he really wasn't taking it seriously.
Ryan Garcia unleashes his frustration at the Jake Paul versus Gervonta Davis matchup, calling it a total insult to boxing. He blasts the fight for its unfair size and weight difference, saying this isn't a real competition but a cheap spectacle for views. To Ryan, boxing is about skill, legacy, discipline, and fair play, not social media stunts or viral moments. He believes watching a naturally smaller fighter like Davis step in with a bigger opponent like Jake Paul and then promoting it as a competitive fight is completely wrong. Ryan argues that this event sends a dangerous message to young fighters, that hype and money matter more than honor and hard work. For him, this goes beyond entertainment. It's about protecting the integrity of the sport. Ryan dedicated his life to boxing, and he sees this fight as a mockery of the craft that true fighters bleed for.
Mainly Jake's, and we're not falling for the Disney Channel bit no more. We're not falling for you're not a fighter no more. We're not falling for that. You're ranked as a cruiserweight, and you're out here trying to fight a lightweight. And then on top of it, you were just talking about fighting Anthony Joshua. That doesn't make no sense. And, I just felt like it was a disgrace to boxing, and kind of it was not a good move by Jake Paul. I understand people saying, Gervonta got to go get his money, blah, blah, blah. But, we're not talking about that shit. We're talking about the sport, bro. We're not talking about, you got to get that money, bro. Yeah, but everybody's open to criticism. That's the whole point of this media shit. Right. That's why they talk about basketball players. They don't talk about, LeBron's making too much. Nobody cares, bro. LeBron's missing the shot. He's missing the fucking shot. So at the end of the day, bro, I just thought it was a disgrace to the sport. Because on one end, you got the casuals, right? The casuals don't see the weight difference. They see Jake Paul and Gervonta Davis.
Yeah.
And if Gervonta Davis doesn't fuck up Jake Paul, they're going to think Jake Paul is some pound-for-pound champion type of fighter.
Yeah.
And to me, that's just it's tricking the public, and it's kind of bullshit at the end of the day. Because at the end of the day, if Gervonta was Jake Paul's size, we wouldn't even be having this conversation. There probably wouldn't even be a fight.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? So I just think that it's a disgrace to boxing.
Well, we got to play devil's advocate because people are saying, well, Ryan, you called out Jake Paul before too, so how would you say that? What do you have to say to the people that were saying that?
Well, I'm way bigger than Gervonta Davis. Gervonta Davis is 5'4", and his last fight was at 133. My last fight was 147. I walk around 170. So, I mean, 170 to 190, whatever, however big is not too much difference. But you got Gervonta Davis, he's actually really small. Like, when I fought him, he's small.
Yeah.
So I just think it's a very unfair fight. Nobody was complaining when Jake Paul was fighting Julio Cesar Chavez.
Right.
Nobody was complaining when he's fighting Anthony Joshua. And I still think Jake Paul's a cool dude. But shit, he's calling me out on my shit. I'm gonna call him out on his shit, bro. That's a fucking disgrace of a fight.
Yeah.
You know it. Just like Mike Tyson, low key was a disgrace, but we accepted it.
Yeah.
He was 60 years old. I mean,
Right.
what the f are we talking about here?
That's crazy.
Sean Porter views the Jake Paul versus Gervonta Davis fight through a veteran's perspective, seeing it as a sign of boxing's changing landscape. He argues that today's generation of fighters is more focused on quick paychecks than achieving lasting greatness. In Porter's eyes, Gervonta Davis has become part of a growing list of athletes who chase money over legacy fights. He reflects on how past legends risked everything for glory, taking on the toughest opponents to etch their names in history. Today, however, Porter believes fighters prioritize brand deals, social media clout, and short-term profits. Tank's choice to fight Jake Paul rather than pursue meaningful, defining challenges is, to Porter, a clear sign of this shift. Despite his criticism, Porter acknowledges Tank as one of the most gifted fighters alive, yet laments that his talent is being wasted on spectacles rather than contests that truly define champions. Ultimately, Porter isn't just calling out Tank. He's warning that the trend of money-driven matchups is gradually eroding boxing's soul and legacy.
But why are you doing that? How do you sort of see this scenario now for him?
Yeah, I don't really know how to feel about it, what to really say about it. I've only been asked this when it's presented to me. That's when I think about it, and I can't really come up with a good answer for it. In a lot of ways, it doesn't make sense to me. Of course, we know the size differential, and the kind of list goes on from there. I don't know, man. I think we're entering a generation now, or a phase now where fighters, I don't know if it's fighters, I don't know if he doesn't care about the legacy, or if he feels like this fight doesn't matter, I'll get back to the legacy. I just don't know. This is truly not, it's not a legacy fight, but of course it is a generational money fight, so.
Many analysts believe the problem isn't just the fighters, it's the audience itself. They argue that modern fans are fueling the circus atmosphere in boxing. Technical, elite-level fights often go unnoticed, while exhibition matches and influencer bouts dominate headlines. Social media's short attention spans are shifting focus away from skill and strategy, turning the sport into a drama-driven spectacle. The analysts emphasize that the Jake Paul phenomenon isn't entirely his fault. It's the audience rewarding chaos over craft, tuning in for trash talk and viral moments rather than genuine competition. As a result, serious fighters have less incentive to take risks or pursue challenges that build respect and legacy. They also point out that this fan-driven trend has blurred the line between professional bouts and entertainment acts. Real champions fight for belts and historical significance, while influencers chase clicks and viral fame. As long as fans keep buying pay-per-views, boxing will favor spectacle over substance, leaving true craft in the shadows of hype and social media frenzy.
Thing has evolved to where it's at. I'll expand on that. For one, you have good fights where I'm not talking about these type of fights, crossover type of fight, former Disney guy, influencer stuff. Not. And Jake Paul has really promoted himself and acquitted himself to the point where kind of a boxer. Now, he hasn't fought the top names. I get it, blah, blah, blah. But he's doing his thing. He's training like a boxer. He's not like taking it lightly, like streaming and then working on his YouTube more than he's working on his boxing. It is what it is, right? But beyond that, let's keep it going. I told you I'm about to really get unpacked. Subscribe to the channel. The reality is, the reason why I'm saying I blame you, the fans, is because we've had some very good fights, like David Benavidez, Caleb Plant, whatever. I'm talking in the last 5-10 years, right? Very good fights, all boxing. So not talking influencer or any type of crossover fight, right? Good fights. And then you got boxing fans in a niche sport who didn't further the exposure by advertising or buying the fight, mostly buying the fight with piracy and whatnot. So now we're at a point in this society where these companies, they're like, all right, they see the piracy is a problem. Now they're looking for sure shot, must win type of scenarios. That's why we're getting these fights that some people, purists and diehards, are calling wonky fights. You know what I mean? It is your fault.
One of the biggest concerns among boxing pros is the size gap between Jake Paul and Gervonta "Tank" Davis. Jake naturally walks around at cruiserweight, while Tank's domain is lightweight. Analysts stress that skill alone can't overcome physics, reach, weight, and raw power matter. Tank's explosive combinations are elite, but closing the distance on a bigger, stronger opponent like Jake is risky. Critics argue that mismatches like this shouldn't even be sanctioned. Showbiz dives deeper into Tank's legacy, noting cracks in his resume and the business politics shaping his career. Lamont Roach points out that Tank was contractually bound to a rematch with a top contender, but chasing Jake's payday shows shifting priorities: money over legacy. Fans feel let down, as Tank bypassed an opportunity to silence critics and cement his dominance. Max Kellerman adds perspective, recognizing Jake's unmatched marketing power and explaining why champions can't ignore him. Polly Mulgy and other analysts debate whether Tank's knockout power can translate against a heavier, durable opponent. Eddie Griffin rounds out the discussion, labeling these bouts as Hollywood fights, scripted for hype and profit rather than true sport. Both sides are aware of the stakes. If Jake falls early, the hype dies. If he survives, the payday multiplies. It's spectacle over substance, but fans will still tune in. If you love this breakdown and want more boxing insights, smash that like button, share with fellow fight fans, and subscribe for the hottest updates in the boxing world. Don't miss out. Join the discussion now.